Hi everyone, welcome to Raise to Rise podcast, a place where we discuss bite-sized wisdom nuggets with easy-to-follow practices to live a better life. Raise to Rise podcast is supported by Ayurvedic Seva. Ayurvedic Seva is an herbal dietary supplement line set out to change the industry by dedicating the company to quality, safety, and holistic approach on making the wellness journey safe, healthy, and natural. If you want to start adding some natural herbs in your life, then head over to ayurvedicseva.com and use our promo code RAISE2RISE for 30% discount. Once again, it's ayurvedicseva.com and use our promo code RAISE2RISE for 30% discount. I am your host, Mital Patel, a parenting junkie, Ayurveda enthusiast, and an advocate of conscious living. Welcome, Ruchika, to Raise to Rise podcast. We're so excited to have you on our show, and I'm sure all my listeners are they're just waiting for you to open up, because today I really wanted to just know about your story and how did you get to the point where you are. So do you mind to introduce yourself to my listeners today?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting. I love the fact that we connected on Instagram and then here we are. So I love that. So a little bit about me. So I grew up in India, and due to various reasons, like I think there was a lot of, my childhood was not exactly easy. So what ended up happening is, as a young adult, I was an extremely angry person. And you know how it is that like you take out your anger on the people that are closest to you.
For sure.
So I took it out on my mom all the time, as you can expect. And so she, was introduced to these meditation breathing techniques by her friend. And she kind of told me, she was like, Ruchika, you need to do this. And, I was like, this was back in 1999, so I'll date myself a little bit. But, you're in college and you're like, what are you talking about? Like,
right.
What is this meditation thing? So I didn't do it, but I resisted, but finally I gave in, and it was really life-changing for me. And funnily enough, I had not told my friends that I'm doing this. There was a workshop basically that taught me breathing technique and meditation. So they didn't know I'd gone for it. But about 3 weeks after that, they even, like, when my best friend at the time called me, she was like, what's up with you? Like, you're not like losing your temper as much. Like, you seem much calmer. And when I got that feedback, I was like, oh my God, this stuff is working. And so basically, I think that kind of led for me to see so much inner transformation. I think for me, the anger was a result of a lot of, like, definitely a lot of negative experiences in my school and all those things that were like building up. Mm-hmm. And I'm the kind of person that would hold on to those emotions instead of letting them go. And it just, this breathing technique and meditation that I did allowed me to just sort of be free of that. And so, that kind of like started my journey. And then I just got deeper into it, and I keep, like, it's like an onion. I think all of us are like onions, and you sort of like start to peel the layers of like stress and strain off of you. And you suddenly, like, over a period of time, like, really realize, oh my God, like, what am I? And it sounds really kooky, but really, like, I started to understand, like, who am I at the core? And that's basically what started my journey.
I can so relate to this, because like earlier when I mentioned the way, because I was totally a different person, this was the reason. I was always angry, just getting mad, and this was actually coming out on my kids. I had a lot of traumas in my school, during my school days, like getting bullied for me being dark, which I was one of those person who wouldn't like bottle it up, but at the same time, I just took it as a, like, okay, yeah, I'm dark. Everybody's just making fun of me. It's fine. I didn't think that it was bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that that was affecting my confidence. And so that all bottled for so long, and then when I couldn't, it just couldn't take it, it just erupted like a volcano. And when I was, new mom and studying and here being in US, away from my family, my, especially my parents and my siblings, it was hard for me to manage my emotions, so I couldn't control. And that's when it hit me so hard, and it was just like, an eruption of
Yeah.
anger that was sitting inside. And so I used to take all these anger out on my son, and I could feel that it's, I'm doing wrong. What did that little kid do to me?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he turned 3 and he wasn't talking, and I was all frustrated because, I felt like I had such a mom guilt. I'm not giving him time. And so that's what got me into the meditation. So I can totally relate how you said, like, it's like a peeling an onion, because this is when you find out who you really are, and
Mm-hmm.
what this like outer layer of anger is, doing it to you. And basically it's all inside, like we just stuff it in, inside of us, within us, which doesn't even belong there. Like,
Yeah,
should be no space for the anger. So
that's right.
I totally, I get what you're coming from, and I am so glad. And say thank you to your mom
Yeah.
for, introducing you to these meditations and breathing exercise at an early age, because a lot of people didn't have it, or they don't even have the access. So I even want to say thank you to your mom for,
Yes, yeah, no, I always say that. I'm like, if there's anyone I'm like grateful for in my life, it's like it's my mom to like push me in
that.
that direction. And it's funny because I found my sort of like that centeredness after this. But then to your point about motherhood, like then motherhood happened many years later. And it's sort of like I was like, wait, what just hit me? And I think all of that calm and everything that I had was thrown out the window.
For
And I
sure.
found myself again, like same thing, sort of losing my patience and which I didn't have a lot to begin with. And I always tell my husband, I said, if we had met 20 years ago, we would not be married, right? That's so I found myself regressing into that same sort of underlying sort of that anger and stuff. And so I sort of doubled down, and I went back to my spiritual practice to like really center myself again. And then that is actually the reason why I also started this meditating mommy account
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram, because what I realized is, I mean, I was physically like every mom I met, I was like, I honestly don't know how you manage your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
because I was having a tough time. So I was like, I just like to talk about what meditation and spirituality has done for me, and how it helps me like sort of
Right.
just deal with the day to day. Like there's so much, like it's tough. Like no one tells you that. Like
No,
no
no.
one will tell you that, you will have that roller coaster. And I asked my mom, and she was like, yeah, it was all good. It was all easy. I was like,
Uh,
what? Have you forgotten in like
How can
25,
you
30
say
years?
exactly? Yeah, no, it's like we're just entering into this phase and of motherhood without knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody gave us any kind of instructions and manual
That's
before
right.
we got into this phase. But at the same time, it's so rewarding because it's actually guiding us towards where we are right now,
Mm-hmm.
to be who we are, and to go within. So yeah, motherhood is great. Like it's like, yes, you were just meant for me. And thank you, kids. Like, you just showed us a new path of life. So yeah, that's really amazing. So you're also teaching meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So could you tell us what compelled you to teach meditation?
Yeah, so it was a very natural sort of progression, because, just like if you went for a movie that you really loved,
Hmm.
right, you come back and you'll tell all your friends and you'll post it on Facebook and you'll go all over the place saying, watch this movie. So for me, it was like that, right? Like that, the change that I saw in within myself, internally that I just was motivated to then like start sharing that with others, right? To say like, oh my God, this stuff works, you know, and so that kind of started. I started organizing workshops where other people would learn. And then over time, I just decided to do the teacher training and get certified myself because I felt like that sort of helps me even more. And the other thing that I noticed in my entire life is that when you teach something, I think you learn more.
Yes.
You learn yourself. Like I still remember when I was doing my MBA, this is the funniest thing. I was doing my MBA and I was there was a guy in my class that came from liberal arts background. So he didn't know anything about accounting. And I was like this accounting, whiz kid or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I remember teaching him and all my concepts started to get solidified as well, like just like I was teaching him. So he asked me, he's like, why are you investing so much time in teaching me? I said, because it's helping me. So the same thing happened, like the more I taught these workshops, the more I tried to like share this knowledge with people, the more I think it got solidified within me. And that does not, definitely for anyone listening, that does not mean I'm perfect. That does not mean that I'm like constantly calm and centered and whatnot. But I think of it as a rubber band that's really tight. Mm-hmm. And in the past, like if you pulled it, it would like, bounce a lot and then take a long time to come back to its center. Whereas with these tools and techniques and that knowledge inside, like even if you get shaken, even if you go into that.
And as long as we have that awareness.
Yes. And then you come back to center faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what is the key. Yeah.
I love that. So you mentioned you teach workshops and stuff. So if you're teaching and like, when during your teaching meditation, what's the most common reason do you think for people failing or giving up on meditation? Because, it's not like personally, I can speak for myself. I believe I started in 2015 meditating, just learning and looking up like what is meditation. Because personally, growing up, I never had any access to meditations, dhyan, nothing. Like my family was not into it and didn't know what all these things are until 2015. One of my friends, he told me like, maybe you should look into meditation because I said I have a lot of anger issue. And I was studying and stuff, and it just didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I did it here and there, and it just wouldn't work for me. And like, I would either get sleepy or like even more angry, and you get more racing thoughts. So in the beginning, it was a trouble, and I literally like stopped. Maybe I practiced it for like maybe a month or two, and then I said, this is not for me, and it's not working for me. So what have you noticed any of these things ever?
It is the most common thing that people tell and talk about is the fact that, okay, I cannot sit without thoughts.
Yes.
Like I can't sit down and not have thoughts. Like I can't get rid of my thoughts. Right. And my answer to that, which is something that I also sort of battled with initially as well, but I really have come to terms with it, is, so here's the thing. So the biggest misconception about meditation in my mind is that it requires focus and concentration. Mm-hmm. So there are very different ways to do meditation. The meditation and breathing exercises that I practice and teach, there's a saying that my spiritual master, Ruchikas, I have it on my desk, says, what you resist persists.
For sure.
So the more you say, oh, let me sit down for this meditation, let me push out those thoughts, I need to get rid of thoughts, I need to be thoughtless, I need to be like the Buddha, I need to sit like this and like with my back straight and like be in some. So the more you do that, the more you resist your thoughts. The mind is a very interesting instrument, right? It will be like, oh, really, Ruchika, really? Let me come back to you with, double the amount of force. And so this is, I think, the key to like, this is the most common reason why people say meditation is not for me. They try an app, they listen to some guided meditation, they're like, oh, I had thoughts, forget it. Like,
That's
So
what we did.
we're not monks in the Himalayas somewhere.
No.
We're average people. We have things to do. We have to-do lists. We have a lot going on. So the expectation that I will be thoughtless is, I think, the biggest reason why people give up. And to me, the what is meditation is basically that it's restful awareness. And that's what we say in our workshops as well when people say, like, what are we going to do? Because focus and concentration, right?
Mhm.
It requires effort from us.
True.
And what happens when you put in a lot of effort? Like, suppose you were studying, like you were saying you were studying, right? So when you're studying, you're focusing, you're concentrating on this, like, whatever exam you have coming up. Do you feel really rejuvenated after that, or do you feel tired?
It depends, what
Yeah,
I'm
it depends, but it's exhausting, right? Like,
It
at the
is.
end of the day,
Tired, yeah.
yeah, you spend 4 hours studying. At the end of that, you will not be like, oh my God, I'm so energetic. You'll probably be like, I can take a nap now.
Yeah.
So that is the difference. So if you put effort into it, then you end up being more tired.
Yes.
So restful awareness means you being effortless. You're like, okay, I'm just committing to sitting for these 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever you decide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to sit and I'm going to let those thoughts come. And in my experience, when I do the guided meditations with a lot of folks, like I'll be like, just become aware of those thoughts. And after a couple times I say that, everyone comes out of that meditation be like, oh, when you told me to just let the thoughts be and then become aware of it, there were no thoughts. I said, that's it.
That's the key, right?
That's the key. That's the place where you are aware, you can hear my voice, but you're not struggling, with this like effort, like, oh my God, I have to focus, I have to push everything out. So that, I think, is the long story short.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And for me, so when I gave up, what worked for me, that I invested in mentor, coach. And so since 2018 I started meditating with my current life coach Jay, and it's been going great. Like but that's what he taught. Like, meditation is not about like, oh, I'm gonna gain this calmness, I'm gonna gain this. It's not serene, or it's not one of those things, but it's all about losing. It's about you lose the pain, you forget about all those. So
Yeah.
I love so that for me, that was investing in a coach and a mentor what helped me. But what would you think, that are there any specific you know what would you tell to the people who are new to meditation? What should they look for, or invest? Like, I invested in coach. What would you tell to others?
Yeah, so I think investing in a teacher mentor is actually a good thing. And so the trend nowadays is to just switch on an app and then just go and get a guided meditation, and then you do feel good. I think you do feel good. It's definitely relaxing. But I think to go deeper, you do. And so for me, so I'll just speak from my experience. So for me, what helped is, firstly, that I have a specific mantra meditation, which is personal to me. And
so you practice TM?
No, it's not TM. It's called Sahaj Samadhi. But it's also mantra meditation. So it's that kind of like helps me ground myself, right? And then, so two things, I think. One is definitely getting a formal meditation practice. I mean, you want to dabble with it. I think starting with an app is actually great to just sort of get into it if you've never done it before. But once you've done that a few times and you like that experience, I think going deeper and getting a formal sort of meditation practice helps, because then it grounds you better. And the second part, which is actually, I love Jay as well, and what I'm going to say sounds exactly like what he told you, the expectation of a particular experience, letting that go. Because so I, as I said, I did this in 1999. So I've been meditating for 20 years. And there are very few meditation sessions that are the same for me. there are some days when I am also, maybe my body is tired, whatever. I'm slipping more into the sleepiness aspect rather than the alertness. And then some days there's a lot of thoughts, and all I'm doing is just committing to sit there instead of expecting that, oh, I'm going to feel calm every time, I'm going to feel blank every time. That expectation of a particular experience, when you let that go, again, that also, I think, the dual thing. So getting a formal practice and then not expecting it to be the exact same every day, every time you sit down, I think is best.
That's great advice. I love that, like not expecting, because every time it's going to be different. Because it's about this moment. This moment is inevitable. Like, you can't just have the same moment again and again.
Yes, I love that.
Expect the same session every time the same. So I love that. So since you've been doing meditation for so long, have you personally faced any hurdles doing, either when you started or like how you just said, like you've had some days, but is there something very specific that even you had hard time, or, if you want, like how, or
so I think I can, so when I, like I said, I did it in 99 and I practiced regularly for a while, but then what happened is, and life happened, and I did my MBA, and then I started my job, and it was really, really stressful, like 16 hours a day and whatnot. And so I lost touch with my meditation practice. And I also had a lot of other stresses in my life. I ended up with an autoimmune disease that, in hindsight, was caused by all that stress. At that time, like then, if I wanted to like just sit even 1 minute with myself, I would find it very, very, very restless. And I couldn't do it. Like because the other thing is that we are so used to distractions. And even in, in early 2000s, we didn't have all these distractions, but we still had a lot of stuff that we could go to the external world. So the moment you sit down, like all these things come back, and if they can be hard to deal with. So that's what happened to me, is that all the negativity that was going on in the outside, I wanted to avoid it. And that's why I didn't want to sit even for 1 minute, like with my thoughts, because I was like, I can't handle it. And so I struggled with that for a while. I didn't do my practices as regularly and stuff. And then it was a friend, and I think it's always a friend that sort of takes somebody that's close to you that snaps you out of it. And she was like, listen, you need to push yourself to go to she made me go to a retreat. And I mean, I know that it's not practical for everyone, but this was 3 days, and it sort of jump-started me back, because again, like we acquire a lot of stress in our bodies. And like I was saying, I even had an autoimmune disease that I was dealing with, which definitely was a stress-related one. I had other personal problems, and work was stressful. So I just jump-started myself a little bit again, just like the car, like you go for servicing sort of, every 6 months, right? You run and run every day. And then after 6 months, you're like, hello.
I need some.
Exactly. So I then started doing these 3-day silence retreats once or twice a year. So my aim was at that time to do it twice a year at least. And after my kids and everything, I've been trying to be as diligent as I can. So I try to get away at least once a year.
I remember recently, right, when you were pregnant, you did go on a silent retreat.
I did, yeah.
I would like to know more about that. Like, so silent retreats, how do they work? Like,
it's very interesting, because for those who love to talk, the first thing they're like, oh, I can't shut up.
That's me.
I can't shut up.
That is true.
Yes. So it takes practice, because you're, again, like your mind is used to distractions. And so when you start to quiet it down, it will bombard you, and it will, so my experience of silence retreats, having done, I think, almost like 20 of them now over the years, just over the years, again, no two silence retreats are the same. But for me, one thing is it's a structured silence retreat. So it's not the one that I attend. It's not like they just drop you there and be like, go off on your own, but you can't talk to anyone. So there are a lot of like actual guided meditations. There's yoga. There is, you know, you can go for nature walks, whatnot. And what I have found is in the first day or so, there will be a lot of restlessness because your body, it's like, it's just, I'll take the car analogy again, right? You're going at 60 miles an hour and now you're trying to put on the brakes. Yep. It's not going to come to a halt right away. It's going to take time. It's going to probably skid a little bit, whatnot. So I always think of it that way, that it will take you a little bit of time to dive into it. And then slowly your mind will, and again, applying that, like, stop resisting the thoughts, and they're going to be there. And that's what I think happens with me every time I do it, because the first day, I'm always like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then by the second and third day, you just become so much more calmer and centered. And like, it's a true vacation for me. Like, a lot of times we go for vacations and we come back even more tired.
Yes,
this one's like a true vacation. I'm like, just let go. So that's what it is.
That's incredible. I love. Hopefully, I get to experience one of those too.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. So, what I sensed is resistance is the main thing that we should stop, resisting when you meditate. But how about can you what would you advise to somebody who's just about to start on the meditation journey? Are there any tips that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think definitely if you can invest in learning, as I said, a workshop, in a formal practice, that would be the way to actually start, in my opinion, just because there's a lot of different ways to do meditation, and you just do have to find something that works for you. Yes. I do suggest to a lot of people to do like guided meditations to begin with. They're like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever works for you, that like can ground yourself a little bit. To start with that, for sure. There are a lot of good apps out there. We can, we can share as well. But
Headspace.
Yeah, Calm, Headspace. The one that I do is called Sattva, Sattva, because it has also got chants and stuff like that. And so just overall, it's like a nice, lovely guided meditations there as well. So I think starting with that is good, but then investing in yourself. And I think that's really important, is like, a lot of times, as far as spirituality is concerned, like, we don't want to take the time or the money to invest in ourselves. And what we say is, I'm too busy. I'm too busy.
That is the number one reason that we go, oh my gosh, I just don't have time, and I just have so much going on at the moment.
Yes.
And I'm just too busy.
Yes. And to me, like, I will be honest. I mean, again, like, my journey has been from like a young adult to a single person, to getting married, then having one kid, and then now having two kids. The challenge is different in every stage. But to me, like, those 20 minutes create time for me, because I can do whatever else I'm doing better. Right.
Yes.
So what takes me, for example, at work, right? Like, what used to take me maybe 4 hours takes me 1 hour.
Yeah. No.
Because there's more calmness, there's more focus as a result of that breathing and meditation that I do. So I always say this. I said, and I think there's a pretty famous saying, I don't know, they attribute it to the Buddha, but I don't think he said that. But that, if you're busy, then if you do 20 minutes a day, and if you're really busy, then you do 1 hour a day of meditation. We can't spare 1 hour. I can't spare 1 hour, but I can tell you that.
Well, we can practically, at least whatever is feasible according to your schedule and
exactly
time. Is what I learned in my spiritual practices, and my spiritual teacher always tells us that all you have to spend is 1% of your time. So, you have 24 hours. Just spend 24 minutes. And
Yes.
you have all the rest, 99% of the time to
Yeah.
yourself, where you'll be more focused. So
Yeah.
it's not like you were spending time, but you are gaining more clarity. And it's
Exactly.
you're losing all the clutter, like you're just decluttering yourself when you do that, when you spend that 1% of your time.
Exactly.
I love that when it's like, and it's like, like human being, we are so wired to know, like, number wise, we're so good. So when you say you have to do 20 minutes of meditation, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have 20 minutes of time to spend. But when you say you only have to spend 1% of your time in the entire day, then you're like, oh, it's only 1% of time.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that next time someone tells me that. I'm going to be like, listen, it's just 1% of your day. I love that. Yes, that it's so true.
It is.
It brings a perspective. Yes.
It
And
just
so,
gives this, so that's what I like to, tell myself, because there are days when I tell myself, you know what, I don't think I can make it today. I have to choose. Do I want to do my journaling, or do I want to do meditation? Like, and then my kids are calling me, like, how our mom life is in the morning. You get kids ready for school. So some days I'm sitting there and my kids are like screaming, "Mama, Mom!" So it's like, okay, fine, So some days, every day is not
I mean,
same.
life happens. Life happens. And again, like the mommy situation is like a unique, I think.
Exactly. Like, how old is your daughter? Your older one?
So I have a 4-year-old, and then I have a 2-month-old.
So 4-year-old, like, you just sit there and she comes like, oh, mommy,
Yeah.
together. Like, can I sleep in a little more? Can I get a hug?
What I love though is that, like, I've seen that she's able to now appreciate the time I'm taking for myself. Like, she does come in a lot of days and she'll be like, mommy, mommy. And I'll just open my eyes, be like, can I have a couple minutes? And what I'm seeing is she's getting used to the idea that mommy will be unavailable for a few minutes, but then mommy comes out happier. So
yeah, right. They get
but
that. They get
I think she's understanding that. And I think that's great because again, we didn't know this when we were kids. And so, like, even for them to see the parents saying, I need these 20 minutes for myself so I can be a better mom, I can be a better parent, a better employee, whatever better I want to be. And I think that's what it is. I mean, again, life happens. There are days when I don't get to it,
right,
but I try.
to be perfect. And we're all work in progress, and that's all it matters. As long as we're doing something about it, as long as we're working towards being our true self, where it's okay not to be perfect and not to go in that line. So I know I really love those advice. Thank you, Ruchika. I really appreciate. Before I let you go, is there anything, do you have any current projects or anything that you would want to share with our listeners that I didn't ask you about, and if you want to share it with us?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't mention it before, but the workshops that I teach are actually, so this is volunteering that I do with this nonprofit organization called Art of Living. It's in like 150 countries, and all the teachers mostly are volunteers. And so what we do is teach these programs. They're called happiness programs. I love the name because I feel like, yes, it allows you to like be that unconditionally happy.
That's what we need nowadays, to like spread the unlimited happiness.
That's right. Yeah. So that's actually like all over the US you will find, or all over the world. So you can always just like search for happiness program locally, like Art of Living. You'll probably find a workshop close to you that can be done. Also so that's the breathing techniques. That's called Sudarshan Kriya that we teach in the workshop. And then the mantra meditation I was talking about is called Sahaj Samadhi, also taught by Art of Living certified teachers. Personally as well, like, so I've been teaching these workshops teaching them for close to 10 years and practicing them for 20. But off late, like, as I was saying, like, the motherhood aspect of it, like, really sort of woke me up, and I wanted to like focus more on other moms. So that's why I started my Instagram account, Meditating Mommy, which I basically focus on sharing things with moms that are like struggling with the same.
I love your content. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
I read all your long posts. They give me no, like they literally give me the perspective on, on being a mother. And yeah, some days I can just be myself. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's so important for other moms to see like the real stories behind some of the things that
yeah,
are happening and then also have the tools. So it's not just about like, okay, I have this problem, but there's like, this is a tool that I'm using. Maybe that's helpful to you.
yes. And I love that about our social media nowadays, because our mom did not have that.
They did not.
They didn't have this, and we're so fortunate and we're so blessed to have this, this platform where we can share our learnings with other moms and help each other out.
Yeah.
So grateful, and grateful for, moms like you who share
Yeah.
this journey.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, and I'm gonna just share a few more things between now and year end because I think it's like a good time to like wind down and things
Yeah,
like that. So yeah, that's what's going on with me here.
I love that. I'm looking forward what you got for us in the treasure box for the end of the year.
Yeah.
But one more and very last question, and it's my son's question. And
Okay.
I have to ask every guest this question because he listens to the podcast, and if I don't ask, he's gonna be like, "What
I
did
think I know the question because I've heard your
you
podcast.
heard?" Yes, so
It
that's
is
the
the
question.
same question.
Yes, it is the same question, and he says he's asking me that you gotta ask your a list your your guest that if you were a type of a food, what would you be and why?
Yeah, I will be a lemon. I love lemons and I
Lemon.
love the sweet and sour sort of nature of that. Like sweet and sour lemonade was my thing like growing
Good.
up because I feel like that's who I am. Like I have a
Yeah.
sweet side and then I have a sour side, and some people see both and some people
That
see
is
only one.
that's a beautiful way to put in sweet and sour, because you're both. I'm salt, and I like the lemon with salt,
Yes,
salt and sour.
right.
That's
One
amazing.
is necessary and the other one's like, okay.
It's I'll be with you there. Just give you more taste to it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I love lemons. They're
good.
like besties.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate Ruchika for spending the time and sharing all the beautiful advices. And you know what? I really want to do part two with you and
Oh,
discuss everything about our parenting journey, because today was all we could do is meditation and our
mhm.
motherhood. But I really want to go deeper in the spiritual perspective of parenting.
Yes,
So listeners out there, just wait for our part two, and
that would be awesome.
it'll happen. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, and we
Thank you for taking the time. This is amazing stuff that you're doing. Like just holding space for people and sharing that with so many, like folks is it's great. Thank you for that.
Thanks for listening to Raise to Rise podcast. We would absolutely love to hear your thoughts about today's episode. Please let me know you have listened to this episode and fill me with your aha moment. Share it on Instagram, tag me with hashtag Raise to Rise or at Raise to Rise, and I would love to share those to my stories and shout you out there. I would also love if you can subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's our brand new podcast launch, and we have some bonus giveaways going on for the top raters and reviewers. Also, I would love to send you my 7-day parenting journal absolutely for free. All you gotta do is leave me a review in the iTunes store, take a screenshot, and email it over at raisetorisepodcast@gmail.com. Again, take a screenshot of the review and email me at raisetorisepodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you the 7-day parenting journal absolutely for free. Thank you so much for being the active listener of this podcast. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for raising your consciousness and rising as joyful beings.